We thank you so very much for joining us. And we know that these strategies are going to be able to help any relationship that is ever experience some type of emotional regulation or even dealing with their emotions. And so if you have not followed us on Instagram or Facebook, I'm just kind of reiterating a little bit.
All right.
If you have not,
didn't catch it
exactly.
first.
If you have not followed us, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, because that is where you're going to find out what's going on within Marriage Evolves, and also sign up for our newsletter.
Yes.
You can go to our website, www.marriageevolves.com, and you can be able to subscribe there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and just bring in our special guest.
Today, we have a very good friend of ours,
Yes.
Dr. AJ. She will be sharing.
She don't want to say no doctor.
Oh, okay.
She want to be called Coach.
Just Coach
or
AJ.
Just AJ.
Coach Rod Roshawn presents to you today, Coach AJ. This is a good friend of ours. She will go ahead and help illuminate some more information about that emotional regulation.
All right. So everybody just put your hands together, and here is AJ.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the broadcast today. As Coach Rod and Coach Roshawn just said, my name is AJ. I go by AJ. My name is actually Angela Jordan.
What? Angie Jordan? Okay, Angie.
Angela Jordan. And I'm happy to be here today. I am a psychotherapist, and the difference, or in case you have any questions, what a psychotherapist is, we provide a variety of treatments that aim to help a person identify and change troubling emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. And also within all of that, we work within the mental health field as well. Psychotherapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, we all work as a group, and our term is psychotherapist. And
so let me ask you this, Miss Ange. I'm sorry to interrupt you a little bit. So with everyone working in that same capacity, how has it been with you seeing families and couples come together in that capacity?
In that capacity, we actually that's part of what we do. We do individual therapy, family therapy, couples therapy. And within that, basically the difference between a therapist and a counselor, counselor pretty much will give you different steps of what you need to do in order to help you through whatever you're struggling with. A therapist, what therapists do is we help the person help themselves to make it through what they're struggling with.
That's good.
And what I've seen is that is so much more rewarding for everyone, because when they are done with the therapy, they are excited because they did it. And it's not where someone else did it. They did the work, they put in the work, and the therapist just basically helped guide them through the process that they're going through.
Now, I'm going to just throw something out there real quick, because for a lot of people, especially couples.
But AJ didn't tell anything about herself yet.
We're going to get to that in a second. But for a lot of couples, especially men, a lot of time we hear that word therapy, we start thinking, well, I ain't got no problem. There ain't nothing wrong with me. Why should I need therapy? What the benefit is therapy going to do for me and my spouse?
Well, so we get that a lot. We get that a lot where men have a problem with that, or feel, especially sometimes when it comes to couples therapy, and if it's a female psychotherapist, we get where men feel like, oh, okay, they're automatically going to jump to the female side of whatever is going on. That's not it. But what we always do is when we talk to men about coming to therapy, we help them understand that we are not telling them what to do or trying to tell them what to do. We're just talking about whatever areas they may be struggling in, and the process of how they're going to make it through, and how we will just guide. Understanding that. And sometimes, especially when it's just a couple and the psychotherapist, and not like a group therapy, because we do group therapy also, they have that one-on-one time where they can be open and honest about what they're feeling I always make sure they know it's no judgment zone at all, because people feel judged a lot of times, or if they get any type of couples therapy, they feel like, okay, I've lost out on whatever I'm doing in marriage, and I'm a failure. And that's not it. It's just you're asking someone to come in, a neutral person to come in and just help you get through.
Right.
It's all a process.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
So, men, if you're just tuning in to this session,
Yes,
and you heard the word therapy, sit right down. Don't tune off. Stay where you're at, because it's there to help guide you through some processes, especially with your spouse. So, with that, Andrew, would you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm retired from the Navy, and I retired back in 2005. Yes. And that's
Retired what?
huh?
Retired what?
I'm a retired E6.
Oh,
what?
okay.
Yeah.
I've been calling you all this time.
I know. And look, I'm okay. I'm the chief over something. I don't know what.
All right.
Yes. So, retired from the Navy. That's how I ended up in Washington. I'm in Washington State. I ended up here because of the Navy, and been here since 1996. While I was in the Navy, I did several different jobs. I started out as an aviation electrician, and then I just happened to be the right place, the right time. And I actually did a lot of management jobs and continued on until I retired. So while I was in, I started out in human resources, working toward getting my degree in that. Decided one day, I woke up and decided that I wanted a degree in psychology instead, because the brain and why people do what they do is, I've always been curious about that and just wanted to learn everything that I could in that. So my undergrad degree is in aeronautical management, and I have a bachelor's also in aviation safety. But then I did that because I was going to go that route, but then I decided psychology. My master's is in psychology, and specializing in marriage and family therapy. So in doing that, I've been doing therapy since I retired. I actually started.
Okay, so I'm sorry to interrupt you again. Now tell us a little bit about what you do in the community.
Yes.
Where you live, so people can know that, we don't have just a jackleg person coming on and give some information about emotional regulation. We have somebody that's coming in to give you some good sound information.
Jackleg?
Yeah, jackleg.
Okay.
Your leg. So I'm part of the critical incident stress management team for our county. And what we do, I'm a mental health professional. We basically provide psychological first aid for our first responders, our policemen, ambulance, firemen, all of those. I handle the mental health portion of that. The other thing that I do for our county, I'm on the executive board of directors for our Family Promise team. And what we do is we help our counties, communities bring all resources and help for homeless families with children. So those are some of the other things I do, along with I have my own private practice, and that's Keys to Wisdom. So I usually see people on Saturdays and Sundays for that, because I'm so busy with Monday through Friday with the agency that I work with.
Man, you know what? You said a mouthful, but if I can just summarize it, you have a passion to help others and help them step right out from their tyranny, from their whatever the chaos they have, from their past, even their present, and you help them step into the freedom of their future.
Yes. That's most important.
Wow. Now, the whole purpose of us coming together tonight is to talk a little bit about emotional regulation. I have posted something, was it earlier today, in regards to how I had dealt with a situation with anger. And I know anger is one of the issues that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's a huge one. However, can you kind of just give a little definition of what emotional regulation is before we head on into the strategies?
Yes. So emotional regulation is a term we use to describe a person's ability to effectively manage and respond to an emotional experience. We all have emotional experience every day, pretty much.
Yes.
It depends on what type of emotion. Yes, yes. So with that, how I said we manage and respond, how we manage and respond to emotional experience. There's a difference when people may respond to something or react to something. When a person responds to something, responding comes from the word responsibility.
Yeah.
And when you have that responsibility, you're going to be considerate and deliberate about how you're acting or treating a person. When you're reacting, that means you meet one action with another action. So that may be immediate and rash. So an example of that, so say you're upset with your spouse about something and you immediately react by getting angry, maybe yelling, upset with them, you're upset with yourself, you're upsetting yourself and making the relationship worse. And that's when you react. But when you respond to something, you may be upset, but you notice your anger reaction and you pause, take a breath, and consider the situation.
Got something real there. Because as you started into that, and when you hit that part about responding and reacting, that's something I learned. Oh, so pivotal. I learned it some years ago from one of my mentors, and he brought me to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, 11. He said, when I was a child, I spake as a child. And I thought as a child, and I reasoned as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. And he broke it down even further. He said, as children, when they don't get their way or when they can't articulate things, they react.
Yeah.
Tantrums, they do all these kind of different things. But when you become an adult or when you start maturing in your mindset, as we're talking about right now, a relationship in your marriage, you don't just react and go off the handle with your spouse. You learn to, like you said, pause. Let me think about this right now before I respond, before I formulate my words and how I'm going to interject this, what I'm feeling with my spouse.
Yes. Yes.
Now, do you think that a lot of relationships suffer in this area?
As far as not having the emotional regulation and understanding emotions?
Yes.
Of course, because in relationships, we say two become one, yes, but then it's two people with different types of ways they show their emotions, and that's something that I was going to hit on briefly in here. But one person may react, respond, or whatever they want to call it one way, and then another may respond or react another way, and their emotions may be like, say, for instance, someone crying. One person could be crying because they're sad and hurt about what's happening. Another person could be crying because they're very, very angry.
Yeah.
Now, could it be possible too that the tears are not anger or frustration, but it could be guilt
and shame?
And shame.
Yes.
And they don't know how to articulate that.
Exactly. And that's where some of the words that I was going to talk about for the different emotions is give a name to what some of those emotions are. And people may have other words, but it's the same emotion. Yes.
Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and dig into some of those words. I know we had the first one that we already touched on was called anger. Because that's a common emotion that we deal with in relationships, especially in marriage relationships.
Yeah, because that was my problem. The reason why I turned over that ironing board.
Yeah, for those of y'all that was with us last week, that was the story my wife shared about how she reacted. She didn't respond.
She
reacted. She threw a little tantrum. She had a little. Yes.
So this is going to be good for all of us.
Oh, yes.
All of us. So with anger, ways to different words for anger could be aggravation, agitation, annoyance, fury, grouchiness, grumpiness,
Mm.
irritation, outrage, even rage, wrath, vengefulness, frustration, exasperation, because you can be angry to the point where you're just tired. You're just tired of being tired. So,
and I don't, JJ, I don't want to cut you off, but I just had to, because when you said that word aspiration and being tired for just being tired, we just came out of globally a situation where a lot of people went through aspiration, never understood or were able to experience that before, especially in relationships and marriage relationships, especially as well. So many people were hit up against the wall with, what do I do? What do we do now? I am so aspirated. I don't even know if I want to be in this relationship with you. I don't know if I can even cope being in this environment, in this situation with you. I don't have any outlet. I mean, you mean I got to confront and deal with you day in and day out? Yes, it's a real thing. And there's a real emotion that a lot of people, because if they did not take the time out to work through and talk it through and express their feelings to the fullness, responding without reacting, they didn't know how to deal with aspiration.
Yes. So different events that prompt feeling anger are having an important goal blocked. You or someone you care about being attacked or threatened by others, losing power, status, or respect.
Wait a minute. We got to slow this down. Okay. So break that down a little bit more. Losing power, respect.
That's
a huge one.
Yeah, that's key.
Yes. Because in many couples, you know, there that loss of respect for whatever reasons. There are different reasons that people lose respect for one another, and with that, anger can come along with that because, say, one partner may feel that they've lost the respect of the other, and that will cause them to feel angry. And along with the anger, like we were talking earlier, comes the shame and guilt and all of those things, other emotions that come with that. So losing that respect, losing power, it could be power, not, and I don't want to get anyone to get that confused with control, like being controlling over a relationship, but just losing power of whatever you feel you have power over, not a negative way, but in the way that, okay, you know, when the family looks to the husband as the protector and all of these things, when respect is lost, they feel that they've lost their power of what their family see them as, which is a protector, the one there to provide, all of those things.
And now I got to highlight this because you hit on something. For a lot of men, especially for a lot of men, because the way God has wired us, the way God has fashioned us, respect is our love language.
Yeah.
And the way you can respect us all day long and we would do cartwheel flips upside down for you. But the moment you stop respecting us, it's like you stop loving us.
Yes. And then, you know, the thing with women, as far as on the women's side of that, is we can get caught up in things that cause us to feel like, okay, how can I respect this person that say that they love me because of whatever? And then that's where we get caught up in our emotions, and we're not thinking about regulating emotions. We're not thinking about regulating anything because we feel that like as a spear through our heart. So yeah.
Well, how would one
regulate the anger?
Learn how to get the anger in a what is the word I want to use?
Subjection.
I don't want to use the word control. How would one actually learn how to manage that better?
That's a good way.
In their relationship?
Yeah.
Because that was a struggle for me. I had to really learn how to manage my anger because I was one that suppressed it so much.
Yeah. So first, I some of the things that I have here talking about anger. An important goal is blocked or desired activity is interrupted or prevented whenever a person becomes angry too. So when anger is not justified by the facts or is not effective, so it can either not be justified because of different reasons of what's going on, and the one person may be angry with the other, but it's not justified because they don't have enough information or history on why they, someone can do something and trigger a person and be like, I remember when so and so did that, so I'm angry. And unfortunately, it could be the spouse. What we talk to people about doing is doing the opposite actions. So whatever the emotion is, doing if it's a negative emotion, doing an opposite action for that. So opposite actions for anger is gently avoid the person you are angry with rather than attacking.
Yes.
Because
That's good.
we could be angry with someone and then just walk by them and sigh or roll our eyes or whatever, different
There's
things.
many emotions when you're doing that.
Was that a grunt?
So also take a time out and breathe in and out deeply and slowly.
Yes.
Girl, I didn't have time to do that because I was like,
But
Yeah.
you know what?
but I've learned to do that.
I can admit, for me at least, a
Mhm.
lot of times when I was angry with Sean, the first thing I did, well, one of two things I would do would either go get outside, go in the heavy bag, get some exercise in, burn some calories, burn all my frustration off, or go for a run. And that way I was able to think about everything that just transpired, think about what happened, and I'm exerting myself, so I'm able to punch through that feeling of anger and all those emotions with it. And that time I'm able to come home and be in the mind space of, all right, I didn't thought about this, I didn't process this, I didn't reason on how we need to go back and readdress this situation, how to talk about it.
And funny you should say that, because everything that you said with the punching bag and going for a run, exercising and all those things, that's also a strategy that we use for anxiety. So when a person is very anxious, those are some of the things that we tell them, like do a whole bunch of jumping jacks, just a whole bunch of jumping jacks, because that's going to kind of bring those emotions that you're feeling inside, because anxiety can turn into a panic attack if you don't take control of it. So those are some of the things that you're doing. So what it's doing when you do those, Coach Rod, what's happening is you're handling the anxiety that goes along with anger many times.
Wow. Listen, Marriage Evolves community, if you are just joining in with us, we are having a phenomenal conversation with psychotherapist AJ. She is really dissecting emotional regulation. If you have a question, put it in the chat. If there's something that you want to learn more of, also put it in the chat. Put some fireballs in the chat. Not fireballs, that's not the right word to use. Fire in the chat, some hearts or something to let us know that this is actually helping you in some capacity.
Or just in the comments. We welcome the comments as well.
Put in the comments in the chat as well. So we really dived into anger quite a bit. There are two other areas that we as married, those engaged relational couples encounter, and that is fear and shame. Whichever one you want to attack next, you go right ahead.
So we'll talk about fear. Different words that are used for fear are anxiety.
Yes.
We talked about a little bit. Dread, edginess, fright, hysteria, jumpiness, nervousness, overwhelmed, panic, which we spoke on, shock, uneasiness, and worry. So those are other words that are also used for fear when fear is involved. Events for feeling fear could be silence, being in a new or unfamiliar situation.
Wait. So you're saying that if someone is in a new place, or let's just say the relationship has shifted from one place to the next, that can bring about a fear?
Yes, because then the fear that comes along with that, fear of being alone, fear of once they go to that new place or the relationship is in a new place, that have I lost the love of my partner? Are they still in love with me? And then even with when you're looking at different places a relationship can go, um, fear can come along with that, of not knowing what the future holds, because if it was already shaky, you don't know what the future holds, because there are different seasons, and I'm sure you guys probably talked about this before, but there are different seasons in relationships, period. You know, there may be times where everything is lovey-lovey, honeymoony, and then next thing you know, these different emotions rear their ugly heads. And then we have to try to deal with that and be smart and intelligent about what we are doing in handling and regulating our emotions.
Now, is that also something that can be experienced when you talk about, I know we're not really talking about the seasons, but you mentioned that when a relationship goes from having the children in the house to not having children in the house, or either when the relationship is, let's just say 5, 10, 6 years old, or whatever the case may be, and again, something shifts and they're not showing you the love in the same capacity that they were showing love to you before, that can that bring about a level of fear and anxiety
Yes.
that one may not be able to manage correctly?
Yes, because some of the things that could happen too, okay, children could move out the home, graduate and move away, go to college, whatever. That's one thing, but something that we didn't bring up could be medical issues that happen that causes a relationship to kind of shift in a way. And without going into the different medical things, but there are medical things that happens with the body where, say, for instance, part of the intimacy is kind of like cut off because one partner may not feel it anymore based on medical issues. And that can cause fear for the health of the partner, fear for, once again, being alone. Is this going to be a terminal illness that the partner may have, and then I'm going to be left alone? What do I do? So it can be a lot of different things that would cause fear to happen.
You know, I want to throw it because, you know, I got to cover things for my men.
Yeah.
There is a area that I know a lot of us may not be willing to address in dealing with fear. But yet we deal with it. And a lot of it comes from the fear of unmet expectations or the fear of unresolved expectations.
Yeah.
Man, if you're listening, once again, these are some areas, those emotions that we feel that we try to hold back, compartmentalize, or suppress. These are those things you got to be willing to confront and talk about, especially with your thought. And if not, go and get a mediator, a individual, a therapist, a psychotherapist that can sit there and help you identify and label all these different feelings and things that you're going through, those emotions, those reactions, and those responses that you're dealing with.
Before we go into shame, how important is it for anyone in a relationship or marriage to understand their own emotional regulations? How important is that?
It's so important, because how can you move forward if you don't even understand what even got you into the place where you are?
And,
oh, girl,
So can you say that again for the people in the back row? Way in the back.
You must understand, in order to go forward, you must understand what happened in the past to bring you to the point where you are. You know, people have so many different reasons on why they are where they are, and not many people can't even name the emotion. No, because there are so many myths about emotions, you know, like emotions is a bad thing. If you're showing that you're weak, if you're showing any kind of emotion, some people have grown up where they're told, like, boys don't cry, men don't cry. And if you're a man or a boy and you're crying, that's showing weakness, but it's not. It's that's an emotion, part of the outer show of an emotion that a person is feeling. It could be fear that they're feeling. It could be anger that they're feeling. It could be shame that they're feeling. And the tears are just an outer reflection of what they're feeling on the inside, the emotions.
Oh my.
Yes, right. Come on.
This, when it comes to emotions, is, to me, it is so vitally important, because lately I've been hearing several pastors talk about we need to get our emotions under control. We need to learn how to manage them better, because they're driving our decisions in our marriages. They're driving what we say, what we do, and how we act or react in relationships. And I think, I know for a fact that there's nobody but God who has even brought us together to have this conversation, because of the importance of it. And for people to realize, don't sit and waddle in these feelings and this lack of understanding. Get clarity.
Yes. And I will underline that, because in the Christendom, in the Christian world, we have a tendency to want to, let's go put prayer
just
on
go
it.
Pray about
prayer
it.
Is good, and it's a very much essential. But there are some things that we got to do and exercise addition to that. And especially in our community of color, we like to go ahead and just lay it all aside, or just don't talk about it, don't deal with it.
Well, that's not just in color anymore. It's in every nationality.
You're right, it is. But we are synonymous, though, in cultures of color, to just suppress it, not talk about it, and not deal with it until it blows up. And that's why I'm bringing that out.
Okay.
Because in those two areas, in those two arenas, we are learning now. We're getting exposed to the point now that we say, you know what, enough is enough. We got to make some changes.
Yes.
We'd have been covering this up, and hiding out about it, not talking about it in the church, not talking about it at the family table or in our circles. We need to say enough is enough, and let's deal with it.
And when you think about emotions too, I always tell people, think of a volcano. Like a volcano, it rumbles and rumbles and rumbles, and then after a certain period of time, it just erupts.
It'll blow.
Yeah. Happens when we try to hold our emotions in or not express them.
Yes.
If we don't express our emotions, how can we learn to regulate them? If we're holding them in, we don't have anyone that could even speak to what emotion it is and what we're feeling as well.
Ooh.
And hence the reason why, without me really getting into it though, hence the reason why a lot of people, especially kids, teenagers in these school environments, are having these moments and they just flipping off and just doing some crazy stuff and just showing up to school one day with a whole bunch of tools and just because they don't learn how to deal with their emotions. They're not learning how to have somebody talk them through it, and they just going off the handle one day.
Well, it actually starts with the family and the parents.
That's exactly,
don't know how to identify and deal with emotional regulation or talk about things, then how in the world are they going to teach their children?
Yes.
And
children, they're looking at all of this. So you have parents that they don't know how to regulate their emotions. They were never even taught different emotions to even put a name to it, because we need to learn how to name emotions too. So once you learn how to name the emotions, then you'll know what you're even regulating. And in that, then the children can see how the proper way, I would say, to regulate their emotions.
Yes.
What they're seeing nowadays is how their parents or guardians are regulating their emotions by not doing it. And then they grow up not doing it because they didn't see it. They didn't see it, didn't understand it. And then now we have a society of people just running wild with whatever emotion they have, not even naming it, not even learning or caring about regulating them.
Yes, we do have a question that came in, but I'm going to hold the question until a little bit later, because I want you to tackle
shame.
Because this part, oh my God. Just dealing with women that I've spoken to over the years of coaching, and the level of shame
Mhm.
that one feels, even myself at one point,
Mhm.
shame of things that I've done and
Mhm.
brought into the relationship, and how I treated Roderick and how I reacted in certain
Mhm.
instances. Help us understand that shame.
Okay. Some of the words for shame: embarrassment, humiliation,
Mhm.
mortification, self-conscious, shyness, uh, discomposure. I say embarrassment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are different words for shame, and the events for reasons that people feel shame many times is being rejected by people you care about.
Wait. We got to take it slow, just a little bit.
Okay.
So when a spouse or someone in a relationship feels rejected by their mate, this brings about a shame.
It could bring about a shame because depending on what the couple have gone through in the past, or
Mm.
something may have happened, may have been infidelity or anything. And then if a spouse may not be showing the type of love and care they had been before, that could cause that person to feel ashamed because they think that their spouse is still thinking about what has happened in the
Ooh, that is real right there.
Yes. Yes.
past. Mhm.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Mhm.
Many couples that we have encountered,
Mhm.
if we can get them to understand, to break that
Mhm.
um, dynamic, it would help them move forward in so many ways, because they're thinking that their spouse feels this way, not really even knowing.
Right. Right.
Their interpretations.
And
Yeah.
unsaid words by them, not like unsaid communication. One person may be thinking one thing, feeling the other thing. So the one person may be feeling shame on this end, and the other person wasn't even thinking about that. It could be something else that they are dealing with. The other person could be dealing with fear or anger or jealousy or some of the other emotions. But the one person that's feeling shame, it's with the embarrassment and humiliation that they are feeling. They become paranoid pretty much
Mm.
because they think everything that happens is because of whatever has happened in the past or whatever they've dealt with in the past, even before the relationship even.
Yeah.
So,
And what you just said about that being that goes back to the topic that we just got finished talking about. They can become paralyzed with fear.
Yeah.
Fear of, I don't know what to expect going
Mhm.
forward in this relationship. I don't know what this person might do or how they may, see me from this moment on. And it goes back into a little bit, if you look at it, trickles back into that anger because it's unresolved anxiety. And it can, like you said, if it's built up, and they're not expressing it properly, they're not talking about it, not dealing with it, and all it takes is one little light match situation, and boom.
Yes.
Mm.
Mhm.
Wow. This is so good. I am just so grateful, because not only are you helping those that's going to be in our community, but you are helping us as well.
Oh yes.
Because even though we are coaches, we still need to learn how to grow and mature and constantly change when it comes to these emotional regulations, because
Right.
life is and marriage can bring on so much to where we don't know how to deal with it at times,
Or we don't deal with it the right way.
oh exactly, we don't deal with it the right way.
There's something I wanted to add really quickly to shame.
Yes.
Like some of the other events, having others find out that you have done something wrong. So being ashamed, like especially, and that can happen, especially like when you're in church, the church community, where being afraid somebody else find out, and then however people had been looking at you as far as a church parishioner, and finding out something about your past. So that can bring on shame too, even from the relationship. If a couple is in the church together, that could bring shame, anger, and all that too.
That's real.
That's real. And then others attacking your integrity. Being reminded of something wrong, that can bring about shame as well. If you're reminded, like back in 2003, you did this, And that happens a lot in couples. And
Yes, it does.
unfortunately, a lot of times women bring up that part, saying, well, I remember when you did, so don't forget, don't think I forgot it, you know.
And have a knack for bringing it up at the most inopportune time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we feel that's the only thing we can grapple. Like, okay, I remember that, and bring it back up.
That's
Now,
a low blow.
how does this, I'm just chewing on this.
Uh-huh.
How would you help someone who is coming from one relationship or marriage into a new one, and they bring a lot of their past, their baggage, and everything into that relationship, all emotions, don't know how to deal with it, never dealt with it? Mm-hmm. Can you speak to that person right now?
Yeah. So sadly, that happens a lot, where, you know, where people they're not able to not bring the baggage, because some of the stuff may be hardwired in their minds, you know, and they bring everything. Instead of two becoming one, it's like five trying to become one.
That's
right. So with that, usually, well, not usually, what I suggest is individual therapy or coaching for each person, and then together as a couple. Because when people have so many things that otherwise, when they have so many things that they're holding on to, and they're unable to leave those suitcases out the door, they bring them all in.
Come on, say that.
A whole U-Haul truck full of things. When they can't drive, when they can't help but drive the U-Haul up to the new residence, they need to have someone that's going to help them through that, and you know, process through whatever is going on. Because trying to bring that into another relationship and hoping and praying that everything is going to be better, that's something that has to be processed. It has to be processed.
It does.
And even with that, it was something you said earlier, Coach Rod, about men going to see a psychotherapist or a therapist, going to do that. Also, people have to understand too, they have to be able to connect with whoever they're going to see.
Yes.
That connection isn't there, that person is they could feel the emotions, they could feel shame, they could feel fear, they could feel like they're being judged, and all of those things too. So once a person find the person that they can connect with, that usually helps with the ease of doing this to get help.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that out, because especially for us men, that area of being able to connect is being able to trust.
Yes.
Because if we can trust you, we'll connect with you. And if we can connect and trust you, then we're willing to be an open book, and we're willing to go through the process, and we're willing to stay committed to the process, because we know it's going to help and benefit us. Yes. I'm glad you brought that out, because, you know, just my goodness, there was something else that you brought out in there that just really made me think. And I'm sitting there processing. I was like, wow. Some of these things that we have shared with couples, you just talked about, it is beneficial for y'all if you have some, especially the baggage area, you have some deep-rooted stuff. Before y'all can continue to go forward together, we got to deal with the one-on-one. You got to go get your help and deal with your mindset, deal with your emotions and everything that you got going on. And you may have to do the same thing. Once y'all worked on your individual selves, then we can come back together and work on a team.
Yes. Because what happens too, if a couple is trying to just work on whatever and they have all this baggage, what happens is that baggage is still there even when they're not going through the therapy. When they're together, they have that baggage that's just hanging there, and they're not working through that, and it's not helping the relationship move forward at all, because that will still be in the subconscious mind.
Yes. You were spot on with that one. Oh my goodness.
Now, okay, I'm going to address the two individuals that left. I'm not sure if these are questions or just comments, but it's a quite a bit, so I'm going to read it. It says, let's see. Fear sometimes is derived from one's past experiences, such as if one saw mom or dad leave due to an argument. One could feel fear. The person may do the same in their marriage. So lots of times what this fear is trying to express, please don't leave me, but it's not coming out that way. Can you address that?
Yes. So when we were talking about fear and also talking about how children are watching and they're seeing what's happening. So with that, they see that, and then in their mind, they're growing up with, okay, mom and dad got in arguments and dad left or mom left. So if I argue with my spouse, they'll probably leave, or they might leave because that's what happens. That's what I see. So along with that, with emotions, that's part of what I said, different myths about emotions, that whatever emotions people show, that's it's true. Like, okay, if you're angry, people leave you. So they grow up thinking, okay, if this happened, then this happened. And a lot of times it's on the negative side, they grow up thinking that. And it does make sense what she was saying with that, where a child can see that and think that, okay, if I get an argument with my spouse, they may leave, or they probably will leave. And that's fear. And what happens along with that fear, instead of them acknowledging or understanding that fear is that emotion, instead of them acknowledging that and learning how to regulate that emotion, it comes out other ways. It comes out. It come out in ways of shame. It could come out in ways of jealousy. It could come out in all these different emotions. But what the base and what the root of it is, fear, is the emotion of fear.
Wow. I have another comment.
Effect to those emotional triggers.
Yes, it's always a cause and effect. This is from Emmanuel. He said, key determinant how we control our emotions depends on environment we are raised from. For example, if one raised from authoritative family and one was raised from protective family, there's ways of emotional regulation. Should always be different reasons why many marriages are breaking up. And he is from Uganda. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Uganda. That is amazing. How it's not just here in our United States where we're dealing with this. It's globally.
Yes, unfortunately,
where people are actually dealing with this. I know we are coming close down to our time. However, can you just give our people that are watching some ways to manage this stuff? And identify the ones that we were talking about prior to coming live.
Where I'd mentioned emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Okay. So when people hear about emotional regulation, sometimes they have already heard about emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. So that's emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence also is a set of abilities and capacities that a person have. So emotional regulation is a set of behaviors and things that people do. So emotional regulation requires emotional intelligence.
Come on now, come on. Well, you know what?
Wait, she needs to help us. Just give us 2 points so these people can walk away, because I said that we were going to give them 3 strategies to be able to identify anger, fear, and shame. So give them 3 quick points on how to be able to manage this stuff.
Okay. So whenever we are managing our emotions, we have to be mindful of our current emotions. Suppressing emotions increases suffering. Mindfulness of current emotions is the path to emotional freedom. Secondly, managing extreme emotions. Sometimes emotional arousal is so high that we can't use the skills, as we said earlier, particularly if the skills are complicated or take any thought on our part. Sometimes we don't want to have to think it through, especially if we're in the
girl.
So that's when we get to a point of skills breakdown, where we have to break down the skills that we have, and crisis survival skills are needed, because that's a crisis moment when we're in emotional turmoil. And thirdly, we have to troubleshoot and review, because there are so many different ways to change our emotions. So it can be helpful to have a list of the important skills to look at when you can't remember the skills you need to regulate your emotions.
You said a mouthful and some. You really did. But we just want to really thank you, Coach AJ, because you really helped. And I hope, folks, this really did help you, because there's a lot of things that were shared today. And you might need to go back and watch this again as a rebroadcast. But there was a lot of good nuggets that were shared today about how to identify our emotions. And we only talked about 3 of them, but there's so many of them. But how to identify them. Once you identify how to properly manage it, and she talked about at the end, was when you start managing it, especially when you do it in a mature way, you're using emotional intelligence. You're taking the tools and resources through hopefully a therapist, through some coaches, through some counseling, and you are taking it and you are benefiting into a better outcome than what you would have had prior to, when you were doing it in your immature state, reacting and not responding. But folks, we thank y'all again for joining us. Marriage Evolves. This was a wonderful session.
It
we really appreciate our Marriage Evolves family stopping by for this team talk, and we wish you a wonderful evening. We look forward to having y'all come back again when we talk about it some more. And we'll see. We get Coach AJ with us again.
Coach AJ, can you come back to do a part 2 or add some more to this?
Yes. I'd be happy to.
Once again, don't forget, like, subscribe, and share with somebody else, especially if you know there's some folks out there, your family members or friends, that need to get this session tonight. Folks, we thank you for your time. We are 2 hearts, one team with one purpose.